Step right up, folks. You're now entering It's a Circus, where parenting isn't always a show-stopping act, but it's certainly entertaining. I'm your host, Elsa, here to prove that no one really knows what they're doing, and that's perfectly fine. So join me and my guests as we share stories, tips, confessions that'll have you laughing, crying, and nodding along. Let's have some real conversations, peel back the layers, and remind you that you're never alone in the madness. Let's get the show rolling. Hey, are you guys in for a total treat? This conversation with Corinne, I'm telling you, I had goosebumps the majority of the time we spoke. And as I was editing it, I was crying, I was laughing. It's a whole convo. And I met Corinne at the Honest Company when we both worked there before we were mothers, way before we were. Her and I kind of both left around the same-ish time. Her career is insane. And she'll talk a little bit about her mat leave package, which is probably the best in the nation. The company she worked for, y'all know, it's a streaming service based out of LA. But she has since pivoted, and she talks about what that pivot looked like, why she made the choice, and it just really spoke to my soul being, basically. So she talked about that pivot, a little bit about mat leave, and then she really took a deep dive into her birth stories as well as the breastfeeding journey. And what really gave me goosebumps as I was talking to her was speaking to her about like postpartum and what that journey was like. And legit, what our conversation was and why it gave me goosebumps is this is exactly why I think these conversations are so critical and important. We just dive into it. I mean, we go real deep. So I am so excited for you to listen to all of this. It was such a privilege to have her share this on this platform. Please, in the show notes, you'll get all of her details to follow her. She has a Substack that she's running right now. Her and her husband run a real estate business, and her content is just really rad. So without further ado, here's Corinne. Hello, welcome to It's a Circus podcast. And I would love for you to give us your mama stats. So how long have you been a mom for, and how many kiddos are you responsible for?
Sure. Yeah, I am a mother of two. My eldest turned 3 at the end of last year, and so my youngest is 6 months, and it's been a good 3+ years doing this.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. Now, motherhood in general, I would love to get your take on, is this something you had always envisioned as a kid and this was like part of your plan? Were you planful around timing to start a family? Like, what was kind of your journey just into motherhood?
That's a really good question. I think I was part of the group of women that had always inherently had the idea of like, of course, you get married, you have kids, and you like start a family, and that's just what you do. I don't think there was ever a turning point where I was like, I don't want to have kids or I don't want to start a family, but that was kind of always in the back of my mind. I think as I got closer to wanting to start a family and like, oh, the reality of like, oh, maybe we should start trying, or you see everyone go through the life phases, and there's like a little bit of a comparison game, right? Like,
Sure.
oh, they got married, like when are we getting married,
Right.
And when I started to see that happen and unfold for other people, I was like, oh, am I ready for that, like the question kind of smacked me in the face.
Sure.
In terms of kids specifically. And I think I said, I'm not sure that I'm ready yet, like we just got married when I was 27, and that even felt young for me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I can do this, but I'm hesitant. Not really. I was very sure that I wanted to get married, but there's always that fear, right?
Right. Of course.
So we had gotten married, and I was like, yeah, I'm not ready to have kids yet. I just don't feel like I'm there to become a mom. And so it took a good 3 years before I was ready. And I think the biggest holdup was like, I want to make sure that I'm secure and safe and ready to be a
Mm-hmm.
mom, right? And that meant like knowing that emotionally I was going to be able to provide for my family. Financially, I was going to be able to provide for my family. So those were kind of the deciding factors into making that decision.
Wow. So that feels very mature and planful. So tell me, like, how did you determine we're ready? You were working through, hey, with safety emotionally, with all of that. Was it something that you consciously worked on? Was it something that you felt like you just needed to be more life experience? How did you determine that those were the factors?
Yeah, I think that I was raised by two parents who, showed me love, I think in a way that I didn't necessarily need love, but in the way that they knew, right? Like that's the other aspect
Right.
of parenting was me just
Yes.
realizing like so much of it is learn as you go. But if
Yes.
I can just be hyper present, which is what I feel like I needed a lot of growing up,
Yep.
um, then I could do this thing, right? Like it wasn't going to be easy and I wasn't going
Hmm.
to just know I wasn't waiting till I knew everything off the bat because that's never going to happen. But
Right.
I got to a point where I said like, okay, if I can just make sure that I'm working through with therapy, with like
Yes.
my own time to reflect on my life and just working through having a security of like knowing who I am as a person, knowing
Mm.
what I want in life, like what these next 20 years are going to be roughly, right? Like, okay, if
Yeah.
I am bringing kids into this world, like, what does that
Yeah.
look like? I just had to
Yeah.
sit and think through that. And I know a lot of
Wow.
people are like, that seems like a lot, or that I had to do it for myself, Like, I wanted
Totally.
to make sure that I was really giving good intention around
Yeah.
making this big decision.
Wow.
And then you
That
just have to like let go at some point.
totally. Yeah. And then what
Yeah.
is let go? Please someone tell me. Okay, I love that. And that is so beautiful. And I just want to say how lucky your kids are already that you have done
Hmm.
that work. That's such a gift already. So amazing.
Thanks.
Um Stuff like that is hard to do, working through all the shenanigans of what you need to. And the fact that you realized that was, I mean, absolutely incredible. Okay. So you're married, you're with your partner, and you guys make this decision. You've done the work. Did you do any research? Did you read the books? Did you read the parenting books, the birthing books, the pregnancy books, anything like that?
Yes, we read a lot of I don't now it's like a blur, like
I know,
you
I
and
know.
I the ironic thing is like I'm only 3+ years into parenting and it feels like 5,000 years and it's also just the beginning. So strap in, right? Like that's how parenting feels. We read all the parenting books that are like circulating Goodreads or wherever it is, and all the recommendations of like, oh shit, I'm having a baby. Whatever, name that parenting book, we have probably given it a good comb through.
Love
Um,
it.
the planning and prepping for baby was like talking to a lot of other parents. It's weird
Okay.
because
I
we
love
were
that.
within our group of friends too. I think our closest friends had their baby 2 years before we had ours. So we got to have that
Mhm.
firsthand experience and just surrounding ourselves with as we were preparing for those for this time now. We kind of literally just surrounded ourselves with other parent friends and like dug
Mhm.
into the deep questions, like do you guys
Oh
get
my
mad at each other all
gosh.
the time? Like are
Oh,
you are you
stop.
are you
That's
tired?
so
Probably the dumbest
amazing.
question you can ask a parent. Are you tired?
Oh my God. That's amazing. So you really got to like dive into like the realness for some people.
Mhm.
That is so valuable. I think that is like, that's such a, that's such a nice thing to be able to do. So real quick, because there's like a linear path into this experience, but I'm curious now since you're on the other side, was that advice for real, or do you wish they would have went even deeper? Do you feel like it was like real solid advice?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's tough. I've been a very big thinker of like take everything with a grain of salt because everyone's so
Yeah.
different, right? Like we
Yeah.
actually had a couple of parents that we were super close with that had their first baby, and then we're having their second, I think, when we were starting to start our family. And essentially, my friend Danny was like very cool, laid back. She's like, you just figure it out on the way. And so I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
figure it out on the way, like taking the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very calm, easygoing. But that's just her personality. We talked to our
Right.
other friends who were like panicking about like, our baby has a fever and, she's only
Yeah.
this many months old and
Yeah.
it's all valid. So I think
Yeah.
for us, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to be on the more stressed side of things, but I
Mm-hmm.
do know because I have seen some of my mom friends that had kids before me and even like my sisters-in-law who
Mm-hmm.
have kids that are between like 10 and 6 now. They've done it, and I'm like, you know what, if they've
Yeah.
done it, I've got this too. I think that
I love
idea of
that.
like when everyone's scared of giving birth, I don't know if you've heard it, but it's like we used to give birth in fields and we
Right.
did.
Yes. Exactly. There is this part where it's we really are made for this. Like if they can do it, we
Yes,
can do it. That's been happening for
yes,
years on years on years on years on years.
yes, and that's what I try to like really grasp onto in the tough
Ooh.
times, which
Yes.
I'm sure you've experienced. But
Yes.
those days where you just feel like you cannot win, I'm like, you know what?
Yes.
I'm gonna close my eyes tonight, and tomorrow's gonna be a new day. We're gonna try
Mm,
again.
totally. Yeah, all about the reset and the restart.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I love that. And such a real thing. I mean,
Mhm.
I had that same kind of thinking too, where it's like, oh, well, so and so has done it. Like everybody's done it. Like it's okay. Like it really, there is some comfort in knowing that you are not the only person that has walked this path.
Mhm. Even though it
But
feels like
sometimes
it
it
sometimes.
feels like it. I know. Why
Yes.
is that the case?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like $1 million question. I need like a psychologist to like break that down because
Oh my
I
God, for
think
real.
about that all the time. I'm like, why is life so hard? And I'm like, people have done this before. I can do this, but it's so hard.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's wild. Okay, so speaking of birth, you guys are prepping. Um, and when you all found out that you were pregnant, was it something that you were excited? Were you worried? Were you scared? What were kind of those feelings when you first found out? And then how did you share that information with your family and friends?
Oh my gosh. First time around with my firstborn,
Mm-hmm.
we were trying. It took us
Mm-hmm.
about 8 months and
Mm-hmm.
it felt like forever. And I and
Mm-hmm.
I say that with the biggest heart, knowing that people go through like 5 years, multiple
Yeah.
rounds of IVF, like
Yeah.
everyone's plan is so different and everyone's
Yeah.
process is so different. But
Mm-hmm.
for me and Neil specifically, Neil was like, every time you take a pregnancy test and it's negative, it just hits you that much harder. And I think
I
everyone
know.
who's actively tried to conceive knows that feeling. So once it finally was positive, we were in shock. And Neil and
Ugh.
I were in the bathroom. I took the test being like, at this point, I'm not even gonna look. It's
Right.
gonna be
Right.
the good old like pee on the stick, see
Right.
that it's negative, throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Great. And so I had that mindset and it was positive. And we were like, what? Like we were staring at each other like, huh? In disbelief. And we both just started like crying, holding each other.
My
We just
God.
couldn't believe it. And it was
Yeah.
so surreal. Like to this day, that was like the day that I think our lives changed forever in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was just the beginning.
I
Like
know.
it was wild. And we started telling family and friends. We have a like all of our friends and family are pretty spread out, so it was a lot of FaceTime calls. Everyone was really excited. No one knew that we were trying. So I think
Yeah.
that was the best part is having it
Yeah.
be a really big surprise for everyone that
Oh,
we knew.
So
Um,
fun.
and then second time around, it was more of like I was coming off, Benny was like 2 years old, my eldest, and I I think we made that decision like 2 years postpartum. I'm like, okay, we can start trying
Hmm.
again. Fine.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and then it happened pretty quickly,
Yeah.
and that was insane because you again based off I think that's the craziest thing to me is that every pregnancy even within you is
Hmm.
so vastly different, right? Like
I
how it
know.
happens, the whole
I
process
know.
through birth. And so that was just like, oh, okay, I guess we are doing it. I guess we are having a second kid. And then we told friends and family, everyone was surprised, and it was all good things, like very
Hmm.
positive experience, but definitely different first time around and second time around.
Okay, so I also same was told and read and like did all the things that they were like two kids. Every kid is different. But it was hard to hear those words when I
Yes.
had one in front of me that I was like, no, this is like my normal. This is how it is for
This is it.
everybody.
Yeah.
But then the second one comes around and you're like, oh my God, there is such a thing as these little, people coming into the world hardwired and like doing their own thing. Like we are there to like Sherpa them through, but like they are their own person. And that was
Yes.
like such a shock to me.
It's so interesting. And I see, my second is only 6 months old, and I see his personality. He is
Yeah.
bold, he is strong, he is loud. I went to one of his checkup appointments, and I was like, yeah, he keeps yelling. And so I'm like, is something wrong? And my pediatrician was like, he's literally barking at you. He is telling you, pay attention to me.
Oh my
And he's
God.
very common with a lot of second children.
Second.
They need they need to get your attention more rapidly. So they do it. They see it, they see you guys talking to each other, they pick it up, and they're just like, ah, okay, my kid wants my attention.
My gosh, that is so wild. Um, so your oldest, Benny, how did he handle the new one?
It was such a sweet intersection.
Yeah.
Really, we had tried to do all the prepping of
Hmm.
reading the Big Brother books, the Big Sibling books, and we had done the present thing where you're like, you want to give
Hmm.
him a present? He got you a present, that whole
Hmm.
thing. And that was a really harmonious entry into the family, I'd say. The mark where the babies start moving and grabbing at things is so real. I heard a lot of parents who are like, just wait, and not in a bad way, more like a forewarning of like, just wait till
Right.
the baby starts moving and trying to take your kids' toys, and it's happening, but it's also it's more of the toddlerisms of having a 3-year-old and their needs and not being able to communicate are so real.
Yeah.
I could hear him when they're playing on the mat together because
Hmm.
my youngest will crawl now,
Oh
like
my
army crawl,
gosh,
and grab
stop.
toys. And I just hear, I don't like that. Just like,
It's already starting. Oh
yeah.
my
But
gosh.
net, I'm very thankful that my
Hmm.
firstborn is so gentle, loving, caring, and really owns the big brother aspect and big sibling aspect.
So
He's like,
cute.
I am a big sibling. I love my baby. And I'm like, yeah, you do.
Oh my God. There is something about just seeing a little bond growing between kiddos that just like, there's like nothing better. That is
Mm-hmm.
so cute. Okay, so tell me about birth. So you've planned, you've prepped, you've made the announcement. Did you have, and this is for both of the births, did you have any preconceived notions like a birth plan? Did you have a philosophy? Did you have
Mm.
to like carve out the philosophy? What was that whole journey vibe, whole moment for you like?
Yeah, I will say that I left this part out, but I just remembered it. You
Yeah.
put a lot of things away in the archives once you become a parent, but
Yeah.
I did have a huge fear of giving birth, and I think
Okay.
that was a big factor of me also wanting to wait till I was quote unquote ready, right? And
Yes.
so as I realized I was pregnant. Yay, so
Mm-hmm.
happy. And then
Yeah.
as you progress in your pregnancy, you get bigger, bigger, it becomes more real. You're
Yes, you
just
do.
like,
You literally
oh,
get bigger.
uh, you're like, oh, at least in my head, I was like, I have to do this, like
Yeah, I
it's gonna
know.
happen. A big part of that process was me learning how to surrender and just be like, it's gonna
Mm,
happen, this baby's gonna come out. My doctor, my OBGYN was very much in the court of like, hey, just remind yourself whether how you want this to happen, great. Plan, do the whole
hmm.
birth plan, write it all out. This baby will come out how it wants to come out when it wants to come out.
Yeah.
And that's not to like diminish your feelings, it's just to remind you. So there was a lot of peace in that once I got to that point, but I had so much fear the first
Yes.
time around. I think I was really um I think I was really worried about the notion for me, what I've realized between my first and my second birth is that anything goes, right? Like
Yes.
there are things that happened to me in my second pregnancy that I was like, that was a thing? I didn't even know that that was possible. Like obviously,
Hmm.
clearly, but I feel like when you are in that phase of I'm going to give birth, you can research. I know a lot of people go down the spirals
Hmm.
of like deeply researching every outcome of how a baby can be born
Hmm.
and what traumas can come with that or emergency
Oh,
situations.
yes.
I didn't have the mental capacity to do that, right? So
I
like
love that. I love
knew
that for you.
knew the basics.
Yeah.
Basics of like, okay, a vaginal birth, a C-section,
Hmm.
emergency C-section, great. Uh, my first birth was vaginal birth, but he had to get suctioned out. And you learn that too in like
Oh,
birthing
yes.
school.
Yes.
If you go hospital route, right? You do like a
Yes.
mini birthing school and you learn the basics of labor phases, all of those things. And so
Yes.
I knew that that was a possibility, and then it happened, and I was like, "Oh, okay," kind of freaking out. And I actually recorded both of my births, so I feel lucky in that I was able to like watch them back. And the reason I
Yeah.
wanted to do that was because I was like, I want to have this to remind myself on really hard days how capable I am. Like
Oh,
remember
I
that
love
one time you
that.
pushed a baby out of you? Like whatever it is.
Remember how you grew a baby and you got so huge and you were
Yes.
so tired and you were so dead and then you actually brought it. Somehow you mustered up even more energy and brought that baby to the world. You are
Yes.
very
Yes.
capable. Wow.
So, anyways, that was my first birth, and it was a lot, but it
Yeah.
was not terrible, I would say.
Okay.
Like low trauma baseline.
Yeah.
Second birth, with my 6 months old, I ended up having to get induced, and the reason I made that decision, I ended up choosing to get induced. The reason I made that decision was because I went in, I was in labor, non-active labor.
Okay.
I got triaged, taken in,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like a waiting game. And it wasn't progressing, but I could
Mm-hmm.
feel the contractions.
Wow.
Had walked around the hospital with my husband Neil, and he was like, Corinne, at some point, we just gotta decide, are we going home? Are we staying? Like, what do you want to do? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I cannot go back home to a toddler with contractions. Like, it just felt
Yeah.
so impossible to me to be like,
Yeah.
let me just go home and have my contractions while I'm trying to like get
Oh
my kid
my
ready for school,
God.
you know?
Yeah.
And at that point, my second birth was like 3 or 4 days before the due date. So it's timing wise, I was like, you know what? Let's just go. Let's get this done. Let's have the baby. I'm ready.
I
I'm
love
ready to
it.
meet him. It's been way too long. And
Yeah.
so I get induced, we wait, and by the time I go into active labor, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, I'm pushing, and then I just can feel the energy in the room shift. And keep in mind, like the hospital staff is very calm. Everyone's acting super professional. I really appreciate the support that I'm getting from the nurses, from my OB. But I'm like, something's happening. Because in this span of me pushing in active labor, um, I just keep hearing like more, bigger, harder, all the things that they
Right.
say. But I can feel that the nurses are kind of like prepping and they're like, yeah, I'm calling blah 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 blah, or like
Sure. Yes.
there's a little bit more panic and hesitation.
Yep. Yep.
And so I'm just trying to listen to my OB and be like, what do I need to do? And he's telling me to push and do all the things that you do in active labor. They're pulling my legs back to try and help aid that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Later, come to realize as I finally push the baby out,
Mm-hmm.
it gets to a point where like there's a lot more panic that I can feel. Again, they're acting very
Mm-hmm.
calm, but you can tell it's like an
More
intense situation.
serious. Yeah.
They're
Yep.
pushing my husband out of the way to like pull my leg
Uh,
even further back.
oh
The
my
charge
God.
nurse is like getting on top of me and like elbowing my belly, and I'm like,
Ah,
oh my gosh. And one of the nurses is just in my ear. Her name is Brenda. She's like the sweetest. I loved my whole staff in
ugh,
labor and delivery.
amazing.
The team was amazing, but Brenda was like pulling my leg back, and she's like, "You are a warrior. Like push with your life,
Ugh.
and like give it everything you've got for you and this baby." And like that was what I needed to really just be like, okay, this is like push. Like my life is on the line, like I can do
Mm-hmm.
that. And it was horrifying, but then it happened, and like the baby came out. So in that time, that was only like active labor was an 8-minute span,
Oh my
and it felt like
gosh.
forever. It felt like
Totally.
forever.
Wow.
And what I didn't know what was happening in the moment was shoulder dystocia, which I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar.
not
Are
very.
you
So
familiar?
tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I had no idea. Again, I didn't do the deep research because I
Right.
couldn't mentally manage that. But shoulder dystocia is essentially, I think it happens in something like 5% of births. And it's when the baby's shoulder gets stuck behind the mother's pelvic bone. So they're
Oh
literally
man.
trying to come out and they're like a turtle.
Oof.
They're
Yeah.
stuck. And that can cause a lot of issues with their spine, with their neck, with, you know, their physical
Mm-hmm.
being. And so I had no idea that that's what was happening in the moment. And every
Wow.
step that they took was the right step in this emergency situation. It's literally an
Mm-hmm.
emergency situation, obstetric
Wow.
situation. And so I was like, okay, did not know that until after. But it made sense that there was like, as soon as I had pushed the baby out with the support of the nurses and my OB, another OB came in the room. Because I think at that turning point, like if I hadn't, it would have gone
Mhm.
into like take them to the OR,
Right.
whatever
Let's get
needed
the
to be
baby
done.
out. Yep.
Yes. So that was a lot. And then on top of that, my baby gets put on top of me shortly. And then the NICU team takes him and
Mm-hmm.
is looking him over. He's like bruised and black and just like literally black and blue on one side from being
What?
pushed out,
Oh my gosh.
which is how they get the baby out. But the fear was like, oh, is he going to have any mobility in one side of his body? So that's what we were
Oh
dealing
my
with off the bat.
gosh. Oh my
And that's how much
gosh.
of an emergency situation it was. And luckily he's fine now, but it was a lot of waiting to make sure that he was okay after birth and that he was healing because there was just so much physical trauma for him.
Ugh.
And then separately, when my umbilical cord came out, the doctor was like, "Oh my gosh," and like holding it up, showing it to the room, and it was a true knot, which happens in 1% of births, and that's essentially, their lifeline. And he
Of
had
course.
presumed, yeah, there was testing that was done. He had presumed that it was like it probably happened during labor, that it fully knotted,
Mm-hmm.
but still scary to know that that
Yeah, of
was if
course.
I had waited long, right? Like if I had
Yes,
gone
of
home to
course.
labor, what would have
Right.
happened? Who
Uh,
knows?
who knows? God, that is
Yeah.
so intense. So, did he have to spend time in the NICU at all?
Thankfully, no. He was with
Wow.
us. He again was hyper bruised. There was just more constant checking on him
Mm-hmm.
postpartum because of his situation. But we were lucky enough to not be in the NICU.
Wow. It's,
Hmm.
I mean, dude, what a warrior, first off. Amazing.
Thanks.
And then secondly, to have that support, it takes such a special person to do that all day with like laboring people. Like I
Hmm.
personally can't imagine having that. But I have also, my births were a little different too. And I did have one where I did have a nurse like that was like, you got this, like, go, like, just like, I don't know, crazy mode, basically. Beast mode
Yeah.
is what it like felt like. Like,
Yeah.
you got this, like, go. And that's really amazing that you had that support system in the room with you.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting to see what route everyone decides for their birthing
I
experience.
know. It
It's
is.
always it's always a ride, whichever route you choose.
It is. And something that I was thinking about too is my experience for both births would, if you were just to look at it on paper, you'd be like, oh my God, easy peasy. She's fine.
Hmm.
But
Sure.
as the person going through it, you're like, wait a second. I'm like, that happened to me? Like, I did that with my body, or like, this is going on. No matter who you are, what experience, I mean, what a transformational moment for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's all its own trauma in whatever
It
way,
is.
right? Like there's no
It so
comparison
is.
because again, in the same way
Right.
that every child is different, like every birth is different, the experience is so valid. And to your
Yes.
point, you can look at even mine and be like, "Oh yeah, but she didn't go to the ER. He didn't go to the NICU."
Right.
And it's like that's really not the point. It's not a
Right.
trauma war of like whose was harder. It's all so hard.
It really is. Wow. Did you have a doula or anything, or was it just you and your husband in the room?
I didn't. You know what was so interesting is I had thought about that the first time around and I was like, you know what? I don't think I need one. And I went through the experience and I think it would have been nice to have that support,
Mm-hmm.
but we made it through without one. Second time around, we decided not to have one either. I think I have so much love and appreciation for what doulas can bring, and I think they're so
Mm-hmm.
important. But for some reason in my gut, I was like, I think we can do this.
Yeah.
And it worked out fine.
Yeah. I love it. That is so amazing. Wow. Thank you for sharing. And like,
Yeah.
look at you, two little boys, so sweet. Um, I would love to hear a little bit about your feeding journey for both of them, especially since they're
Mm.
like different kiddos, and maybe how that was for you, what you chose. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first time around with feeding, I had done the basic research of talking to a lactation consultant, watching all
Okay.
the videos to see
Yeah.
like latching and stuff like that. And I think I almost overdid it. And I just didn't know what I didn't know because my firstborn was so bad at latching in hindsight.
Right.
Like
Yeah. In
his
hindsight. Yeah.
latch was so bad, but you don't know that as you're, and not that he's to blame. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
It was
Exactly.
one of those things where, like, in hindsight, I look at this and I'm like, wow, okay, he just had a bad latch. We never were really able to correct it. The first time around, I was getting like blisters and milk
Oof.
blebs and
Ugh.
all the things, It didn't
Yes.
get to the point of mastitis, thankfully, but
Hmm.
it was pretty close. Like the clogs
Yeah.
were insane. I was
Wow.
crying a lot.
Oof.
And I
Yeah.
fed him for over a year. Um,
Oh my
it
gosh.
was it was something where I had the time and the space and the mental capacity, but in
Hmm.
hindsight, I probably could have stopped way sooner. Or I think in
Hmm.
my head, first time around, I also was like that I kind of gave into the pressure that you feel as a mom to just do it, right? Like
Yeah.
not even I think subconsciously I really gave in to breast is best the first
Okay.
time around.
Yep.
Um, and it was more of like me shaming myself, like no one
Ugh.
was telling me to keep going or no one was telling me to like try harder.
Oh my
It was it
gosh.
was a it was my own mental game and
Right.
I didn't even see a lactation consult. So what happened was My firstborn was born around Thanksgiving. They were
Mm-hmm.
short-staffed. We didn't even
Mm-hmm.
actually get a lactation consultant after he was born. I had done my research before with lactation consultants, like knowing which ones to reach out to, watching all
Wow.
the videos, but the
Wow.
actual help with a physical baby, which is such a different experience, right?
I know.
No
It
one was
is.
there. No
Yeah.
one was there. And so I was
Yep.
like, okay, well, let's just figure this out. And I had given it like 9 months before I reached out to a lactation consultant.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, why did I do that to myself? Like, I could have
Right.
solved these problems so much sooner. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I think there was some like self-inflicted guilt of
Yes.
just, this is supposed to be natural. Dumbest
Ugh.
thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of relinquished that at 9 months, saw a lactation consultant, got support, realized there were a lot of things in play, right? Like the bottle size
Yes.
of the
Oh my
nipples were
God.
wrong. The list was endless, but that was tough the first time around. Second time around, I had some initial fears because my baby didn't want to eat, but then I was like, of course he doesn't want to eat. Like he just went through insane trauma. Like he
Oh my
is
God. Yeah, exactly.
concerned in the hospital of like he needs to eat. And I'm like, if my guy does not want to eat because he just had the most painful, traumatic ejection from the womb, like I'm gonna give him
Yeah.
a little bit and figure it out. So
Yeah.
once he did start feeding, it was great. I've had no major issues with this one. Like I'll get a clog every once in a while when he starts to shift his eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been really peaceful and I feel so much more grounded this time around with my
Wow.
feeding journey, which is nice.
That's incredible. So, did you supplement with formula at all, or you just did breast milk the whole time?
So the first time around, the formula shortages were happening,
Oh
which
my
I
God,
think,
that's right.
yeah, you're
Yes.
very familiar too.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um, and so when I had gotten sick, which had affected my milk supply, and the shortages were
Mm.
happening. So we're like rushing to find formula. And I
Oh
think
my
one of
gosh.
the first formulas he had was like from a can because that's all that was available.
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to give my baby this, but I also want my baby to be fed.
Right.
So he had supplemented with formula at certain stages and certain parts, but it
Hmm.
was mainly me breastfeeding, and then he had gotten into solids and, you know,
Then
things
you just
changed.
moved on from there. Wow, that is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, um, breastfeeding was so hard for me both times. And so anyone
Mm,
that I know of that like can do it, I'm just like, "Oh my God. That is like
yeah.
pure superstar status. Like absolutely
Oh,
amazing."
what was your
Um,
journey with feeding?
well, okay, so yes. So I think our firsts were born around the same time because Felix was
Yeah,
born on no, the day before Thanksgiving or after that year. But
yeah,
his
same.
birthday is the
Fourth, yeah.
24th.
Yeah, same. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they do have the same birthday.
Okay,
I love
see, I
that.
knew it. I was like, I knew that there was like that, like, yes. Okay, so we live that same life. I mean, for real.
Yeah.
And yeah, the formula shortage for sure. And then I it was like I was doing fine. I felt fine. And then he was just crying all the time. And so
Mm,
there was this night where he would be crying the entire time. So I basically was sitting up in a chair and holding him. And like everybody's like, don't fall asleep with your baby, like all this kind of stuff. And I was like nodding off and like kind of falling asleep, but then trying to get him to feed, like all the things. And that was probably like my first like breakdown as like a parent. Like, oh my
mm,
God, I don't know what to do. Like, this is crazy. I'm so tired. Um, Mixed up some formula. He sucked it down. And then I heard about combo feeding, which I had never heard of before. And I had a doula. So, and I had lactation consultants, but no one shared this info. They were just like, so then I did a bunch of research about combo feeding and I combo fed him for literally formula and breast milk in the same bottle for
mm.
probably, oh God, months, maybe 3 months after. And then eventually weaned myself and then he was full time formula. But
Yeah.
and then with my second, I didn't even waste time. I was like, if this isn't going for me, I'm not going to do the mental gymnastics of beating myself up and all the things. We're going to go straight
Mm-hmm.
to it. So I maybe combo fed for 3 weeks, and then he was full-time formula.
I love that. And I think that's the sad part to your point is like, even when you do have the resources, which I'm sure you had to pay
Yes.
for, right? Like a doula, a
Yes.
lactation consultant,
Yes.
you still don't get the insight that you need. I don't know if it's like there's more of a taboo around these conversations or if people just don't want to open up about. I don't know what it is, to your point. That's why you started this podcast and I love that you're doing this, but that shared community of just do whatever works for you and here are
I
your
know.
options and here are the resources is so lacking in motherhood
I
and in
know.
parenthood. And
I
it's
know.
terrible.
I know. It is. And so, one of the things that was kind of perplexing to me is I had a doula for both births. And I'm so glad I did because I am somebody that's like very finicky. Like, I faint if I see blood. That's not an exaggeration. It
Mm,
actually happens to me. Like, I
yeah.
just have a lot of anxiety around it. So, I was, okay, I'll do the doula. But the doulas that I were around, because I didn't know what I wanted, were very into the natural birthing.
Mm,
So then I also had this very strange, okay, I don't want to do this medical birth, but I want to be in the hospital, but maybe I will try to birth for as long as I can before I get an epidural. But I had basically decided
mm,
that I would have wanted one. But that was also a whole, I don't know, a whole headache that I wish I didn't waste all this time on deciding if I like wanted that path or not. Because at the end of the day, you're completely right. Your baby is going to come as it's going to come. I
yeah.
mean, any
Mhm,
OBGYN or birth worker is going to tell you that. Even a doula will tell you that.
mhm,
Like, you do not
mhm,
have control over how this baby is going to come to the world. And the thought of the word that you used, which I think is so real, is like that surrender. There is
mhm,
nothing more you can do in my mind. Like the best advice I could give somebody like going into birth is that is all you can do is surrender
mhm,
because there is
mhm.
nothing you can control in that environment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's it's
It's
so bonkers.
yes, I agree.
And then the whole feeding thing, I mean, there's so many thoughts, there's so many we you're right, we have been like drilled into our heads like breast is best, but then if you don't, did you fail? It's the whole wild world. It's here is your first experience of guilt. Like here you go.
Mhm,
Like here's your
mhm.
thing. There's a world ahead of you, but like here's your first taste of it. Like just
Absolutely.
so unnecessary.
So unnecessary and so demanding of a woman to be like,
I
you know
know.
what? I know you pushed this thing out of you. I know you had this thing cut out of you. Like, however this baby came out, right? Like, I
Yeah,
know you had to go through that, but you also, if you're not, like, shame on you, you know? Like,
I know.
what is the point of shaming a mom when like all they're trying to do is make sure that their baby is safe and healthy and happy?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And like we've been mothers for the same amount of time. And like
Mhm.
the thing that I always am reminded of is whatever is best for you, mama, is going to be
Mhm.
best for your kiddos. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
you technically cannot do anything wrong. Like you're going to do the
Mhm.
best you can. You're going to do, you know, what you can, the best you can, all the things, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what so and so is doing. It's just whatever is going to feel good for you is really your step forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We need more of that energy
I
within the
know.
mother community.
I was just going to say, one, how was your like external support system? So once you brought little one home, did you feel support in the decisions you were making around that? Did you feel judgment? Did you feel how was that kind of process?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think having the support when you're pregnant and going through it and growing the baby is one thing. And then the baby gets here, and there's this like, for me, there was this like wash of loneliness.
Ugh.
And in hindsight, maybe there were like hints of PTSD. There was definitely postpartum anxiety, right? But like
Yes.
postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, maybe. But for sure, the wave of loneliness. Oh, keep in mind, this was 21, right? So there was like
Yep.
post COVID, but still,
Yes.
you're bringing a baby and you're like, he's so fresh. I don't want him in front of people. Like,
Right.
germs are still very much a thing that as people are now like starting to want, end of 2021, people are starting to want to like really venture out, travel, all the things that they haven't been able
Mm-hmm.
to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even bring my baby like outside. That's how I
Yeah.
felt.
I know.
There was so much fear. And I think the wash of loneliness that I felt was also that most of my mom friends were not in close proximity in different states or
Yep.
really other far parts of California or even just LA alone. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed or wanted my first time around. But the tie to that was also that I had felt really lonely. And I think when you feel really lonely as a new mom, it's easy to close yourself off even further from people who maybe want to support you, or you don't want to feel like you're a burden, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm not gonna, I don't know, they're not even reaching out to me, so I'm not even gonna bug them, even though that's what you need. Like it's
I
so
know.
hard being a first time mother because you can get so insular if you allow yourself to sit in that. And so
I
that was a
know.
lot of what I was dealing with the first time around. And not to say that I didn't have an amazing support group, people who
Right.
were texting me,
Right.
checking in.
Right.
But I think what I needed and what I didn't vocalize because I didn't know how to was had led to even more loneliness for me.
Yes. I mean, I felt the exact same way. I literally did. I mean, there's like, and I still actually say to this day, I believe that there is no lonelier road than that first mama moment slash year
Mm-hmm.
slash couple of years. There is not there.
Mm-hmm.
No one can do it with you. I mean, yes, your
Mm-hmm.
partner could sit next to you and help you, encourage you to breastfeed, but it is just you that gets to do
Mm-hmm.
that. It
Mm-hmm.
is so even healing after birth too. It's just like no one else can do it for you. Like you are the only one that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a ton of loneliness for a long time, actually, and not for lack of support. Like people were around, which was great. And thank goodness for that. But like that, I don't know, that big but I am the only one that can do this one thing, or I am the
Mm-hmm.
only one that's like responsible for these things. And that is so overwhelming and so hard when you don't know that's like that wave is coming at you. So,
Yeah.
did you do anything different this time around to prepare for that?
Oh my gosh. I think I had so much fear that I would have that same level of
Yeah.
loneliness and like postpartum anxiety and just like stress on me and
Mm-hmm.
sadness. And the funny thing is, second time around, I think I just walked into postpartum with so much more confidence and knowing, because to your point, the first time around it lasted so long and really like I think it lasted almost 2 years, my postpartum
Yeah.
journey, where I physically, mentally, emotionally did not feel like myself or the new version of myself that I was also birthing, right? Like
Yes.
that did not come for me until about 2 years postpartum, the first time
Ugh.
around. This time around, having that knowledge, there was a hint of fear that that would happen again, but I think so much strength in me knowing that it was a chapter, and it was going
Yes.
to pass. Because again, when you're
Yes.
in it, you just never know. It feels like forever.
No.
It feels like it's never. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
sleep regressions right now, and I'm like, this is my life now. And at the same time, there's a part of me that's like, this will pass and I will be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the second time around, I had a lot more um, security in knowing that even though it may happen and I might feel terrible, I might feel really lonely and really isolated, I know that I can strap my baby on now. And like I have the confidence to just
Sure.
like strap my baby on and go for a walk or like take him to the
Right.
grocery, even though he's so young, and like know that everything will be okay. Where
Right.
the first time around, I had so much fear. And again, I think that a lot of that was tied to the pandemic too, but
Yes.
also just like first time parent during that part
Yep.
of the pandemic was not the combo.
No, it was not the combo. And yeah, it was not the combo. Any kid that was born in COVID was wow. Like what a
Yes.
challenging parent moment for
Mm-hmm.
any kiddo that was born during that time. Um okay, so the loneliness that happens because I haven't talked to anybody about this and this is like
Mm.
something that like lived within me forever and I'm serious when I tell you this because the kiddos were so close together, I have not felt normal until
Mm.
literally little one turned 2.
Wow.
And I had heard that. So I had reached out to a friend and I was like, I'm having a really tough time. And she's like, well, everything gets better once they're 2. And I'm like, but both of my kids are not 2. So, like, legit, I have 2 under 2 and they're not even close to 2. And I am like dying. And and it's just I don't know. I just wonder is there some like when you think about your loneliness journey and I like ugh, literally almost still feel it. What is at play there? Do you think it's an us thing? Do you think it's a societal thing? Do you think it has something to do with career, our family structure, the expectation? Like if you were to go back and just look at you through a movie screen, what would
Mm-hmm.
you be like? What is happening for her?
Oh my gosh. I think for me, there were so many factors, right? Like, I, first time motherhood, as you said, is no joke. It is not for the faint. You feel all the emotions so boldly, and so they weigh so
Mm-hmm.
heavily on you. And then you also think of like societally, again, the lack of support, right? Like the fact that we have to pay for doula services and like that they're
Yes.
not even covered under healthcare, lactation
Yeah.
consultants. It's pretty wild to think how left to our own devices we are, and not in a good way. You know,
Right.
like,
Right.
please, someone help me. I'm grasping for straws here.
Yeah.
If you don't have the familial support, I know at the time my parents were like, they didn't really even drive, because they're older.
Mm-hmm.
And so it
Mm-hmm.
was like I knew I'd get support sometimes, but it would have to be like hyper. I don't have the family that just will like drop everything and show up at your door and be there for
Yep.
5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Great for the people who do,
Yep.
but that was not an option. And so I think all of the factors surrounding being a new mom were just not necessarily set up for me to have this like hyper pleasant experience of like, oh, it was
Mm-hmm.
so beautiful. Postpartum was so beautiful. At the same time, even if they were, I think physically, emotionally, like if you do the hospital route, you're brought into the hospital, you labor, you give birth, and then you have, if your baby's healthy and you're healthy, you have maybe 2 nights in the hospital, maybe three, and then you go home. No one's watching your baby but you and your husband, who
Ugh.
are fresh. You're freshly postpartum.
Yes.
Your husband has no idea what he is doing.
No.
He is becoming a father the moment that baby's born. You at least have
Yep.
had the physical, mental, emotional preparation of growing this child and having that responsibility. Your partner is like fresh dad. And so you're bringing
Yes.
home a fresh mom, a fresh dad, a fresh baby, and it's just like let's figure it out.
Wow.
It's the perfect formula for anyone to feel like isolated,
Alone.
lonely, all those
Totally.
things.
Totally. And I think the other thing is like your partner is going through their growth too, right?
Mhm.
So I found it very hard to be like, and also I couldn't articulate it. I still can barely
Mhm.
articulate it. How do you say, I am alone when you have a baby in front of you and your partner, is in the next room or sitting next to you, like cheering you on? I don't know. But there is just like this overwhelming loneliness that is just wild. And I always had the thought of, yes, I can share. I shared with my husband, of course, like some of those hard moments, but I also felt guilt because I knew that he
Hmm.
was going through his own, like, whoa, mind blown journey too. And so it's okay. Do I like layer that on top of that? Do I hold it in? Like, what is happening? What
I
is
know.
happening?
It's such a weird thing. And I don't think any of us need to know how to explain it. I think we leave it to the
Yeah.
people who study these things. But I
Yeah.
know I know in my mind that loneliness was so deeply rooted that like no one could pull me out of it but myself, you
Right.
know? Like
Right.
to your point, those 2 years when you're physically rewiring and becoming this new
Mm-hmm.
person and your body is changing and you're
Mm-hmm.
going through it, like that is your journey and all you can do is hope for support from the people around you and hope for resources to help get you through
Yeah.
it, but it's going to be hard
Yeah.
regardless of how many resources you have or not. It's just like it's such a tough time.
Ugh. Now, were you on an official mat leave? Were you working and did you go on mat leave?
Yes, so my first time around, I was lucky enough to have a year off, a full
Oh
year.
my gosh.
It was
What?
beautiful. Yeah, it was amazing. I am so lucky to have that experience. I am on the side of like that should be the normal, right? Like you think of how world changing it is to bring a child into the world, and then you're
Yes.
like, wait, I have to do this, and everyone's telling me like, yes, have kids or whatever, societally,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like more babies. But what? Like I have 3 weeks off for some people or 2 weeks
Yeah.
for some
Yeah.
dads, 1 week. I don't know. It's insane. So
Yeah.
when I went to bat to say like I'd like a year off and I wasn't met with hesitations, I was so grateful knowing that that's not the norm. Second time around, since I now work for myself, I didn't really
Yeah.
have time off. Like it was just like I maybe took 2 weeks to just like not answer emails and
Mm-hmm.
be with my baby. And then I started to integrate back in like, okay, I'm feeding and I'm checking emails. So it was
Right.
two very different experiences. So I felt
Okay.
really lucky to have that experience.
That is crazy and
Hmm.
really amazing. So I think a lot of people too, when they talk about mat leave, right? Just in general, I
Hmm.
think before you do mat leave, at least my experience was like, okay, like, yes, they'll heal, whatever, come back to work, must be nice to be with your baby. My experience was like, I am a dead person trying to be alive, living this new life, trying to keep a kid alive. Like, I don't know what is up. I don't know what is down. Like, what is this like fourth try or whatever. Did
Yeah.
you feel like that when you had to go when you went back to work? Or what
So
was
I
like that
think,
process? What was that
yeah.
whole journey for you?
Do you mean in terms of coming back?
Yeah, like integrating yourself back into work after your mat leave was up after a year.
So I think because I had the year, it was
Mm-hmm.
a lot easier for me to make that decision to be like, I'm
Okay.
ready
Okay.
to come back. I did come back and then I ended up quitting my job. I
Yeah.
came back
Love it.
a year later and then left by next spring. And a lot of that was just realizing that I was such a different person and I needed different things in terms of work for myself and for my family. And so that was a really hard decision to make because I really appreciated my coworkers. Like I had been at that company for almost 7 years. And so walking away from that was tough, but I knew it was just not what I needed at the time. Um, the the hardest part about coming back after a year was knowing that I was going to be spending so much more time away from my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And we had actually integrated daycare um, earlier. I think when my baby was not, my firstborn was 9 months old,
Mm-hmm.
to just start testing the waters. And I
I
would
love
still
that.
pick him up early, pick him up at like
Yeah.
noon, and just have time with him. So I think that was the hardest
Mm-hmm.
part is like, I kind of had time. I know a lot of moms have to just like eject themselves from this beautiful new chapter of like
Mm-hmm.
caring for their child to go
Mm-hmm.
hard turn back into work. And I'm so thankful that I didn't have to do that, but at the same time, it was still hard a year
That's what I
in.
mean. Like, how can
Yeah.
it not be hard? Like, it's still hard
Yeah.
no matter how much time you have.
Mhm. Mhm. I think at the end of the day, that was a big factor in me also saying like, okay, I think I'm ready to try something different, give
Yeah.
myself more time to just be flexible. Like the hardest part about my
Mm-hmm.
job that I was in was it was pretty nonstop and I was working with a global team. So I was on at different hours of the day and it felt really constant to be working because it needed to be done, obviously, but to be working those hours of like, okay, I can take a call as early as 7 a.m. with people
Mm-hmm.
across, the globe. And then I'd work throughout the day, and then maybe I'd come home and do dinner, but I'd have to hop on a few more calls at like 8 p.m. And it just didn't feel like it's what I
Wow.
needed to be doing or how I wanted to spend my time when I was
Mm-hmm.
at this crucial stage where like my baby's starting to walk and if I miss that or you're like
Yeah.
wait I need to reassess my priorities right now. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a really hard part about making that decision and knowing what you're sacrificing for yourself in order to be with your kids, like career
Yeah.
wise and
Yes.
time wise. But I think for me, it was 1,000% worth it.
Mm-hmm. What made you struggle with that decision?
I think I was at a turning point, not just who I was now as like a new mom, and having to make that decision and accept, like, okay, I need to step away from this career right now because I do want to be more present with my kids. I do want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I'm working a job that is more flexible so I can go to their like winter recital at 3
Yeah.
p.m. on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Um, but it was also a pivotal turning point of like, am I ready to put this part of my life on hold, knowing that it's going to be so hard
Mm-hmm.
to jump back into it if and when I decide to jump back into it?
Mm-hmm.
Because society is not kind to women who have quote unquote been out of the workforce, if it's like corporate America, right? For like 2, 3, 4 years. They're like, oh, actually, we have this great person who's actually the head of that department and is hyper plugged into X, Y, and Z. So I think making the decision to step away from a career was really hard because that was for my family, but it was also a decision that I had to make for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew the reasons I was doing it were right, but the hard
Mm-hmm.
part was that I didn't know that I was necessarily ready to do that, if that makes sense.
Please. It all makes sense, unfortunately. But yeah, so that idea about stepping away, you were at a place for 7 years, all of this kind of stuff. Clearly, you like loved your job, were great at your job. And yeah, you think about what that gap looks like right on the resume always, and then how to come back to that or move on from that. I also stepped away. I had Felix, and then I had 16 weeks off, and then
Hmm.
an additional 4 weeks on top of that. That was part time. So at 20 weeks, I was full time back at work. I traveled, and 1 month later, I found out I was pregnant with my second. It's like, okay. The decision is very clear. There is like
Oh my
no
gosh.
wiggle room.
Yeah.
And um, I think that's one of the hardest things that I have ever had to do was, and I loved my job and I loved the people that I was working with. I just knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to the level that I had wanted, or at least the previous me had done. I couldn't do it to
Yeah.
the level that I really had envisioned. And I felt like I was not only doing a disservice for the company and brand and the people that I love, but like a disservice to my integrity of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think when I look back at the postpartum ride, that was like the nail in the coffin for me. That was like the
Oh,
hardest kind of like pill
absolutely.
to swallow. The like, what does that mean? Thinking about, what does the world think of me? What do, just the whole thing. Like, did I fail? Like, all this kind of like weird stuff that just gets
Yes.
like thrown at you as you like try to make
Yes.
that decision. Did you feel any of that kind of stuff at all?
Yeah, I think there was so much like distrust in my
Mm.
in what I knew instinctually I had to do. It sounds like you're saying the same thing, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
instinctually, you knew you had to make this decision and make this sacrifice for the greater good of like being the present mother and like secure
Mm-hmm.
attachment that you wanted to, I'm assuming you wanted to build with your children. Like you
Yep.
knew that this decision had to be made. So there
Yeah.
was so much distrust in what I knew was a gut instinct. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, I think at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? If I really feel that way 1 month, 2 month, 3 months down the line, then I'll just go look for a new job. Like
Totally.
I'm making this decision to swerve this way and go in this direction of like working for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is not, if it doesn't work out, I will figure it out. And I think again, to the point of
Yeah.
surrendering, at some point I just like
Yes.
threw it out the window and was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Ugh, I love it. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Hmm.
Um, ugh. Okay. I love the surrender moment. Um, Something that I'm dying to talk to you about is you are officially a boy mom now.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts around
Oh
raising
my
two little
gosh.
boys?
I mean, you're in the same boat.
Yep.
So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. But I know for me, it just feels like such a huge responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful because like boy, girl, whatever child you have, I think seeing them get to be kids and get to be curious and excited, like so easily excited and
Yes.
so proud of when they connect the dots of like different parts of life. Like that is the
Mm-hmm.
journey and that's the road I want to continue to like ride on because I think it's so beautiful. But I do know, like for me, there's such a huge responsibility of raising boys in this world to be like capable, thoughtful, patient, all the things, like all the things that I want my children to be. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so important to raise good young men. And I think that weight weighs on me so heavily. But like flip the coin. If I was a girl mom, I'd have so many stressors and worries
Mm-hmm.
too. So I don't know. I just feel like it's such a huge responsibility. I'm excited to take it on. I think it's again, just like getting to see kids be kids, that's what keeps me going every day.
It's
Like
so magic. I know.
when my toddler looks at me and goes, "Hey, Corinne," and I'm like, "You say my name now?" Like, "Hey, Corinne, do you know Kevin?" And I'm like,
Stop it.
"What?" He said that to me the other morning. Has never said my name before. It's always mom and
Oh
mommy.
my God.
I'm like, this is what I live for, like this
Yeah.
is all I need in life.
I know. So we had our first, and
Hmm.
I had just assumed in my mind, I was like, it's a girl. Like, I don't know why I thought that. I'm the
Hmm.
oldest, like, kind of people around me were the oldest, and they were like women. So I was like, oh, of course I'm going to have a girl. And then I had this like beautiful fantasy that my husband would be like the perfect girl dad. And then I have a dream. And in my dream, Felix like literally tells me, he's like, it's a boy. Like I'm a boy. Like stop calling me a girl. I'm a boy. And so literally, subconsciously, I'm sure I like knew that like I was gonna have a boy. Confirmed it was a boy. Have a boy. So excited. Um, we were trying to have another baby as soon as possible. Probably not as soon as this possible, but we did want to have one very close. And when when I was pregnant, before we could find out the gender, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to have a girl. Like Elsa, you are somebody who has to have a girl. Like it would be insane if you didn't have, like you specifically if you didn't have a girl." Like people were telling me
Sure.
that. And I was like in the fog. And I was just like, I'm just here. I'm ready to have like the second one. At this point,
Yeah.
yes, I would love a girl, but I love having this little baby boy. And so if there's another boy, how cute. There's going to be like two little buddies for life. Not that you
Yeah.
couldn't be with a girl, but like, like this
Yeah,
brotherhood.
that bond would be, yeah.
Totally. So I didn't have a ton of gender, um, oh gosh, what is that word? It's like gender disappointment or anything
Oh,
with the
yeah.
second one. But what I continue to think about, and when people ask me, like, oh, are you going to try for a girl? Or like, do you wish that you, like, all of that kind of stuff? I say, and it is true, but like, I think that the people that are blessed with just having boys, we have a big fucking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, we are given the tougher task because we've got to raise these men to be as thoughtful and kind and generous and loving and strong and in integrity and authentic and all the things that, a lot of men get away with not being and are
Yes.
successful in this world. So
Yes.
it's kind of like, can we show a different path? What is this responsibility? And I think that's a harder job. I think that's a hard job right now.
Yeah. Well, it's also paired with the thing that every parent faces, whether they acknowledge it or not, but like you're also reparenting yourself as you're learning to
Mm-hmm.
parent these little boys or little girls. Like you are so it like slaps you in the face, at the times where you just want to like yell and be like, go to your room, whatever it
Yep.
is. You're like, ooh, reparenting moment. I'm gonna pause and breathe and not react that way. Um, as you're trying to like tell, I don't know, for me, it was something really little. It was something so little where like I think my husband and my eldest were playing and my husband did something like tickled him, right? And my baby was like, I don't like that, Dad. And he's like, well, I just did it anyways. It's just a tickle. And I was like, no, Dad, no means no. And it was
Yeah.
like those
Yeah.
little moments that you have to like catch and
You're
really make
so
sure that
right.
you are drilling home what the world needs more of, right? Is just like these thoughtful, respectful, kind young boys who are going to be young men one day.
I know. It's so crazy. I know. It's so
Yeah.
crazy to think about. Okay. I have three little rapid fire questions, but before I get
Okay.
there, out of everything we talked about, and I know like literally I could talk to you forever. See, this is what happens. It's just like I
Yeah.
just want to keep going. There's so many
I
things we could
know.
unpack.
I
Is
know.
there anything that you're like, ooh, I would love to like chat about this, or I would love to like just say a little something about something?
You know what? I think the one thing as we've had this whole conversation is
Mm-hmm.
the reminder to constantly support the mothers in your life at
Mm-hmm.
any stage that they're in, right? It's either like the new moms who just need a hug, the second time, third time
Mm-hmm.
moms who just need you to come over so they can take a nap or
Yeah.
get away. The
Yes.
moms who are dealing with their teenagers going off to college or moving out of the house. And then you have, like, I know a bunch of older parents who have kids that are my age and have been lucky enough to like make friendships with those
Mm,
people. And just that's the moment that I also realized that they're just like us too, like
I
in their
know.
heads, there's still this like 20, 30-year-old
Yeah.
mindset of just like, I'm just trying to raise good kids,
You're
like
right. Right.
it's so circular. And so if you can do anything, just like supporting those mothers in your life and being and those parents who like really just sometimes they just need an ear, or sometimes they
Mm.
just need you to ask them about their day that's like not related to their kids, whatever it
Oh
is.
my gosh, totally. I love that. I think that is such a beautiful reminder. Um, or even just to tell somebody like, "Oh my God, you're such a great mom." That like
Yeah.
just like goes miles.
Yes. Yes. I go out of my way actively now that I am a second time mom and
Mm-hmm.
I see these parents doing the big things, like the first time mom who's grabbing a coffee with her baby and it's probably the
Yes.
first or second time they've done it. I'm like, you are so brave. Like I actively
Yes.
call it out. We're in line for coffee. I'm like, I just want to let you know that I think it's so awesome that you're bringing your baby around with you. Like I was so scared my first time around and
Mm-hmm.
just like really let them know that I see them as they are.
Yeah.
Or I saw the other day, I saw like a mom by herself, no partner in sight, lugging her three kids around. And I was like, you are amazing. I was like, the audacity that you have and the strength that you have to bring your kids out, all three of them, by yourself, like you are truly amazing. And she's like,
Seriously.
thank you. I'm like, I mean that. She's probably like, you're crazy. But I'm like, I love that.
Oh my God, it's so true. I love that. That
Mhm.
is such a beautiful message, and you're totally right. It's just like, just do whatever you can to support them because
Yes.
and you're right. I mean, I have this thought too all the time is I'm like, oh my gosh, I see somebody and she's like all cute. She's walking like her stroller. And I'm like, wow, when I did that, I was a ball of nervous energy. I was in
Mm-hmm.
my head, like freaking out over like a bump that I went over, like absolute insane stuff. And she's just looking
Mm-hmm.
cool as a cucumber. So
Yeah.
the ability just to be, you got this, and this is good, like, way to go, is so powerful. Can go such a long way.
Yeah, I agree. So special.
Ugh. Okay, so if you were to give yourself any advice pre kids, now since you've been a parent for almost 3.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
what what would you tell yourself? Some advice to get you through these next couple of years.
Pre-kids, I think I would tell myself to slow down and not rush
Mm,
every aspect of parenting. Because again, I talk to these older parents who have kids that are my age and they're like, it just happens so fast. And you realize
mm-hmm,
it. Like I know I actively realize it when I rush. I'm like, we're
mm-hmm,
running late. The school's gonna close. Like whatever you have to say to get your toddler out the door,
mm-hmm,
you know. I'm like, you know what? He's also going through his toddler time. Like I need to remind myself that this is fleeting.
mm-hmm.
So just slow down in every aspect of your life and just know that everything's gonna pan out how it needs to.
I love that. I love that. I agree. It does go by so fast, but when you're in it, it feels so draining. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard not to. The other thing is like it's okay to wish this moment away in addition to wanting to slow it down all at the same
It's
time.
both. It is
It's
both for sure.
both. Like, right? Like, it really is. There are moments where
Yeah.
I'm like, I am so dead. Like, I can't even look straight, think straight. And so what I've been doing is I'm like, I just take a million pictures because then I can go back and be
Yes.
like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I love it. But in the
Yeah.
moment,
Savor
I'm
it.
like dying.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Beautiful. Okay. Rapid fire. One word that describes your parenting journey or that you would describe as what parenthood is like.
Oh, oh, oh. That's a good one. Um, um, chaos. Not even organized, just chaos.
Just chaos. I love it. Agreed. What is one parenting myth you wish would go away?
I think that we were talking about breastfeeding, and that really riled me up. So I think the whole like breast is best. I'm like, I wish we could just throw that in the trash can and let
I
people
know,
know
man.
that fed is best and really like slap it across everyone's face.
Ugh, I love that. Okay, agreed and yes. Okay, and then what is something that you're doing right now in this era of your motherhood, parenthood journey that you just feel that you are crushing it?
Mm, I think it's getting into their world. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than like I will literally I will turn off the stove in the middle of cooking if my kid says like, "Mommy, can you play with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm almost done. I'm almost done." And they keep like asking. I'm like, "You know what?
Yeah.
Stove off. Like, what do you want to do?" You want to be a train right now? Let's be a train. Like, I want to get into your world and I want you to know that I hear you and I see you
Mm.
because I know that you're just like building these core memories
Yes.
and we have the responsibility of like creating a secure attachment for our kids. And I want to
Yep.
make sure that I'm actively practicing that. Obviously, things need to get done sometimes. That's me on a good day.
Yeah.
But I think I'm trying to like get into their world as much as I can.
Oh, that is so beautiful. I love that. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Dude, thank you. This was such a
Oh, thank
beautiful
you.
conversation. Thank you for
Yeah, this
sharing
was fun.
everything. It's so
I
fun.
love
And
that.
I know your story and your story. I mean, there was like I wanted to tell you at one point. I don't remember now, but you gave me goosebumps. Like it's just beautiful.
Hmm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate everything that you're sharing today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think that this type of shared humanity goes such a long way, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm excited for it to come out, hear other people's stories, and just see
Oh,
what everyone has to
it's
share because
wild.
I'm sure it's just it's a circus, as you say.
This is what I'm saying. It really is. There's I was I was talking to somebody and I was like, think about a circus. It's like awesome, but also weird. And also like
Yes.
kind of creepy. And then like a little nightmarish
Yes.
over there. And then there's like a freak show over there and whatever. But still at the end of the day, it's beautiful and amazing. So
Yes.
it is a circus.
Absolutely. I love that.
Okay,
Congrats. This
well,
is awesome.
thank you. Thank you. I'm really pumped. I'm really excited. Um, I think it's a movement to like open this up and be like, hey, this is how it is. It feels good. I desperately, in those lonely moments, I desperately needed a story. I needed somebody else
Yeah.
to be like, it's so hard. It's so lonely, but you got this. It is a
Mm-hmm.
phase. You can still love every moment and still have a tough time every moment. Like it's all fine. You're all fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that you're like starting to get your shine back too, because I can't
Mm.
two under two, I cannot imagine. Like I just can't comprehend. My toddler, I mean, your baby's 3 plus now
Mm-hmm.
and 2, but like I just the fact that I had my kids as far apart as I did still felt like so much. So just to
Yeah,
know that you are
it's
doing all of that with them being so young at the same time, I just kudos to you.
thanks, girl. Yeah. It's so wild. I mean, it truly is. It's just nutty times.
Mm-hmm.
I literally don't know how anybody does it. Legit.
No.
That's also why I want to know. I want to know. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even get to ask you, but we ran out of time. Is like your care because I think that was also another question. Is like, how do people manage their like care for their kids? Like that is like such a giant
It's huge.
issue. I know. It's
Yeah.
so nuts. It's so
It's
nuts.
it's really a different world and we're lucky that we have daycare that's like affordable, but yeah, even
Hmm.
you think about like just the other week our daycare had to close down for like a building issue or they had a leak. And so all of these parents just have to drop everything, figure out a
Yep.
solution, or just take care of their
Yep.
kids when
Yep.
they're supposed to be working to pay their bills to take care of their kids.
Exactly. I know. It's
Insane.
so nuts, man. Um,
Yeah.
thank you so much again. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Tell
Thank you.
everybody hi. Give all the kiddos snuggies. And you're doing a
I
great
will.
job.
Same. So are you. We're crushing it.
We're crushing it.
Uh,
Thanks for listening to It's a Circus. If today's episode made you feel a little less alone, share it with a friend who might need it too. We are building something amazing at the Turner Brothers Circus, an entire space designed for parents to find connection, laughter, and support. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Remember, you're doing better than you think. Stay grounded, stay real, and embrace that beautiful mess. And as always, the show must go on. Until next time.